Now, what we're going to be talking about today is the conundrum, I call it a conundrum, of opportunity and risk. And it's almost like the two sides of a coin. When you have an opportunity, there is a concomitant risk that is related to it. Or if you have a risk, there's probably an opportunity in there somewhere for a business model to take off. But what are the winning strategies? What are the opportunities and risks in creating new cloud business models?
I view risk very simply. It's something you manage. It's something you understand and manage. If you go into the cloud environment, you've got new risks, and I've talked about this before. Suddenly you've got a partner of yours who's got full access to your most intimate data, your financial data. That brings with it risk all of a sudden of simple things like insider trading. Okay, we have a quiet period, there's insider trading rules. You need to make sure your partners understand that. So your cloud provider needs to put in place processes and controls around that for you to make sure that doesn't get out and that they play by the same rules you do. Otherwise, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But there are also advantages of decreasing risk for your customers. And a good example of that is, most of us are suppliers as well as customers. And simple golden rule for a lot of people that are in manufacturing or manufacture a product that goes to a consumer, you want to de-risk your supply chain. So often you use two suppliers purely because if something goes wrong with one, you've got a backup. Okay? There's also the game of you want to make sure your suppliers are cost competitive. But a majority of our suppliers, customers, want to make sure that their supply chain is de-risked, that they can keep their manufacturing and their supply chain going.
And I kind of look at it this way. When I was in college, I worked my way through college working in fast food restaurants. One of them was McDonald's. And you had to cook the hamburger a certain way. You put it down, you press the button, it was very robotic. And I asked, why do we do that? He says, well, one bad hamburger ruins the franchise. Same goes for some of the big cloud companies. You have to pick the right one. But they may even do better than you do. And that's how I look at it. I want to get more comfort with that. But chances are, Google has better security than we may very well have because of that issue. That the minute it's exposed that they had a problem, everybody runs. So we do see those kind of risks. We watch them carefully. But we definitely see a ton of potential here, too.
I'd like to kind of dissect it really from a risk and a reward perspective. And it's really the reward and the risk perspective. And from the reward perspective, I was involved with a project about a year and a half ago in the auto industry, where we looked at the enablement of the trade collaboration that occurs as you move goods across the border, and the number of parties that are involved with that collaboration. Everyone from freight forwarders, customs, suppliers themselves, material managers, and the list goes on and on. And what happened was this material offshore sourcing group decided to initiate the study on behalf of GM and to determine whether or not there'd be some opportunities to use technology like the cloud to achieve some cost savings. And the long and short of it was that we found 15% of all the containers that were shipped abroad were delayed because of information exchange failures. That was the rough estimate. 79% of all the data that was input by these multiple parties was rekeyed because it was all inputted individually. And this one will blow you away. 97% of the information that was exchanged was actually done through paper invoices. So the numbers were really, really high, and there was a great opportunity. And the cost savings was estimated at $1.7 billion for just this segment of the supply chain and making it more efficient. So obviously, huge reward. And one thing I've learned about this industry is reward, or the potential for reward, will always trump the ability to manage the risk in the supplier value chain.
A number of years ago, I did a fair amount of product management, and I think back to how we used to do product management. We would create a market requirements document, and then we'd create a product requirements document, and then we'd get all that tuned up, and we'd hand it over to development, and they would write a spec. And then, my job as a product manager was to manage that development organization to the spec, and it might have been 18, 24, 30 months to turn it out, and then the market moved in that time frame. So, right? But that's how we did it like 10, 15 years ago. Now, it's very different. The agility that new technology brings requires changes in business processes. So, we've got to be living and breathing day to day with our development organizations and providing them new use cases that they go build out a new capability, and next week I'll be able to see that new capability. And then we update it, and we always reprioritize our use cases. So it's changed the development process a lot as well.